Now, before we get into today's video, I want you all to click the link below and join my email list right now. There's a whole lot of great content that I want to send to you, but YouTube doesn't let me show you. Must be systemic racism. They deleted a bunch of our videos, but that will not stop me from telling you the truth. So join my email list right now. The link is in the description. Now, let's turn to January 6th. Reportedly, Trump is under a criminal investigation over actions relating to the 2020 election. Here is what the Washington Post is reporting. It's, quote, criminal probe of efforts to overturn the 2020 election results. And reportedly, prosecutors are questioning former White House officials in front of a grand jury about conversations Trump or his advisors may have allegedly had about trying to replace electors in states that Biden won with pro-Trump electors. Now, Attorney General Merrick Garland had an interview with NBC's Lester Holt and implied that maybe, just maybe, there might be criminal charges brought.
You said in no uncertain terms the other day that no one is above the law.
Yeah.
That said, the indictment of a former president, of perhaps candidate for president, would arguably tear the country apart. Is that your concern as you make your decision down the road here? Do you have to think about things like that?
Before you hear his answer, it is a perfectly legitimate question to raise, and frankly, I'm somewhat surprised that they're raising it. Do you think it would tear the country apart? Keep in mind, Hillary clearly violated the Espionage Act by having that unsecured server in her basement. She said she never received or sent any classified information. She did. She said she never received or sent any information that was stamped classified. She did. And the provision that she allegedly violated did not require any finding of intent. But when James Comey had that famous press conference and outlined all the things she had done, where you got the impression that he was going to bring charges, at the last minute he said, but she lacked intent. There is a naval submarine operator who went to prison because he took a picture of his top secret submarine. Had no intent to engage in espionage, but he went to prison for violating, wait for it, the Espionage Act, even though he had no intent to do so. So the question is, what are you going to do? Here's what Garland said.
Look, we pursue justice without fear or favor. We intend to hold anyone who was criminally responsible for the events surrounding January 6th, for any attempt to interfere with the lawful transfer of power from one administration to another, accountable. That's what we do. We don't pay any attention to other issues with respect to that.
So if Donald Trump were to become a candidate for president again, that would not change your schedule or how you move forward or don't move forward?
Say again that we will hold accountable anyone who was criminally responsible for attempting to interfere with the legitimate, lawful transfer of power from one administration to the next.
Wow. Exactly what do you think will happen to this country if Donald Trump is indicted for an alleged insurrection? Now, to be sure, the FBI has information that the January 6th committee doesn't have, so maybe they have something that I haven't seen, I don't know. All I know is that talk about a two-tiered system of government. Hillary, one more time. Prosecution, none. Eric Holder, the only AG to be found in criminal contempt of Congress for failing to turn over documents pertaining to Fast and Furious. When the House referred him to the federal courts, judge threw it out. But Steve Bannon, because he refused a subpoena, also was prosecuted and was found guilty, probably going to serve some time, maybe a month or so in prison. The country is going to be on fire if Garland brings charges against Donald Trump. And I said before, I don't believe he will. I believe he's doing an investigation. I believe he has to say that he'll do so and he'll let the chips fall where they may, no matter what happens. But I do not believe that there's sufficient evidence from what I've seen to prosecute him. I said before, if they do, my cousin Vinny could get an acquittal. But he's not going to do it, in my opinion. We'll find out. Jonathan Turley is a Democrat. He's a professor of George Washington University. And he talks about how one-sided this whole committee hearing is. The people on the committee were chosen by Democrats. The two Republicans hate Donald Trump, including and especially Liz Cheney. And here's what Jonathan Turley said about the credibility of this committee.
That there's no effort at all by this committee to offer any balance, any alternative interpretations. And many of these quotes that they use, evidence they present, have been carefully edited. And once again, it chips away the credibility of the committee. This could have been something much, much more than what they have created.
And talk about editing things that Donald Trump said on January 6th. Yes, he said fight a number of times. We will fight, we'll fight, we'll fight. It's political rhetoric. How many times have you heard a politician say we're going to fight? We're going to take back America. This is war. It's rhetoric. Donald Trump also said, I want you to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. That wasn't even played. And then there's Kash Patel. Kash Patel, Chief of Staff to the Acting Secretary of Defense. And he, in my interview with him, and told me that he testified under oath to the January 6th committee that Donald Trump authorized the use of up to 20,000 National Guardsmen and women in order to protect the Capitol on January 6th in the event that there's trouble. Now, how does somebody orchestrate an insurrection while directing 20,000 National Guardsmen if you want them to stop any possible insurrection? It doesn't make any sense. And then there are all these times Democrats have challenged electors, and nobody ever accused them of undermining our democracy, which is actually a republic, undermining our republic.
You can run the best campaign, you can even become the nominee, and you can have the election stolen from you.
How can you win with Russian interference, though?
That's the real
what I'm
thing.
scared about in 2020.
But rightly.
Because I think he's an illegitimate president that didn't really win. So how do you
I think he's an illegitimate president who didn't really win. And one more time, Hillary Clinton referred to Donald Trump for 4 years as illegitimate, as having stolen the election, her word, not mine, to the point where 67% of Democrats believe, according to a YouGov poll, that the Russians changed vote tallies. Even though Jay Johnson, Obama's Secretary of Homeland Security, testified under oath, not a single vote tally was changed. And Jay Johnson, when asked, do you believe the Russian interference, and there was interference, altered the outcome of the election, he said, I don't know. How could I know? I'd have to be a mind reader. I'd have to have a world where there was no interference and one where there was, and compare the two of them side by side to find out whether or not the interference altered the outcome of the election. I don't know that, so I don't know. 78% of Democrats think they do. According to a Gallup poll, 78% of Democrats believe the Russian interference altered the outcome of the election, or it is likely that it did so. 78%. And again, Hillary's social media platforms have not been shut down for her promoting the big lie.
Fight against that in 2020.
You are absolutely right.
He's an illegitimate president in my mind.
Would you be my vice presidential candidate? Folks, look, I absolutely agree.
Trump didn't actually win the election in 2016. He lost the election, and he was put into office because the Russians interfered.
Trump
And that's just a former president of the United States saying the Russians put him there. No evidence.
knows he's an illegitimate president.
The president-elect, although legally elected, is not legitimate.
I don't see this president-elect as a legitimate president.
You said you believe that Russia's interference altered the outcome of the election.
I do. We have a president who, if in fact it is proven, has been assisted by the Russians and may in fact not be a legitimate president.
It has in fact been proven. Remember the Mueller investigation? No Russian collusion, yet they're still saying this.
The one thing that Trump is fearful of when it comes to his being president is that finally we will see how illegitimate his victory actually was.
I have an objection.
I object to the 15 votes from the state of North Carolina.
And the one who just now said I have an objection, Jamie Raskin, he's a member of the January 6th committee, even though he made an objection to the seating of the election of 2016. But I digress.
I object because people are horrified.
He's an illegitimate president.
Do you believe Trump is a legitimate president?
What I believe is that there's no question that the outcome of this election was affected by the Russian interference.
No question. No question.
There absolutely is a cloud of illegitimacy.
So that legitimacy is in question, yes. So that was a very tainted election, and in that sense, it's illegitimate.
Why do you think the president is going to such great lengths to essentially prove that he beat you?
Because he knows he didn't. He knows he's an illegitimate president.
Stolen emails, stolen drone, stolen election.
Welcome to the world of unprecedented Trump.
So do you believe President Trump is an illegitimate president?
Based on what I just said, which I can't retract.
We'll get back to that in a second. Benny Thompson, as you know, is the chair of the January 6th committee. He, by the way, referred to Justice Clarence Thomas as an Uncle Tom. And Obama didn't say a word. I say Obama because Obama once said, there's more than one way to be black, I guess, unless you're Clarence Thomas and you're a black conservative. Benny Thompson, there's an article in the Washington Examiner. What Benny Thompson did on January 6, 2005. The 2004 election, as you know, close. Bush won. Vote counting went into the night. Early morning of November 3 came down to Ohio, which had 20 electoral votes. If Ohio goes for Bush, he wins the second term. Goes for Kerry, Kerry goes. Exit polls showed Kerry had a solid lead. The polls were wrong. And pretty soon, as the count went, Kerry's lead evaporated. Ultimately, Bush took the lead, won Ohio 51 to 49%. About 100,000 votes more in that state. Democrat activists, however, claim that Bush had cheated. First, they said that the Republicans suppressed the vote. But they always say that, so that's no big deal. Then they blamed the GOP for long lines at some of the polling places. Then came what some would call the crazies. Democrats began embracing the theory that electronic voting machines had been secretly switched from Kerry to Bush. There was a lot of discussion, amplified on the internet in these pre-social media days. The leader of them was a man named John Conyers. He was a longtime Democrat serving for the state of Michigan. Started an investigation less than 1 month after the election. Held a forum on the Ohio situation. Maybe the CEO of Diebold, people that manufactured the voting machines, a Bush supporter, manipulated the machines, he said, to throw the election for the president. Maybe the Ohio Republican Secretary of State, Kenneth Blackwell, rigged the process in Bush's favor. Maybe both. They said there were two categories of fraud. Conyers said the first was open and conspicuous fraud. Second was hidden fraud that could only be disclosed by careful investigation. Now, there was nothing to it. It was all BS. But there were several lawmakers that went to the floor during this certification process and raised objections, one of whom was a woman named Stephanie Tubbs Jones, Democrat from Ohio. And also, she enlisted the aid of Senator Barbara Boxer, a Democrat from the state of California. There was no other member willing to join Boxer. The final vote was 74-1 against the Ohio challenge. 25 senators did not vote. Many were not even in town because they thought it was just a standard procedural kind of thing, a ceremonial thing, no biggie. Who knew they were going to challenge the electors? Tubbs Jones had allies, not enough to win, but she had others. One of whom was Benny Thompson, Democrat, the one serving, as I said earlier, as a chairman of the January 6th committee. Beginning his 7th term in the House, became the ranking member of the Homeland Security Committee, and was becoming an influential member of the House. He could have joined the 88 Democrats who voted to recognize Ohio, or even the 80 Democrats who didn't vote at all. But he didn't do that. He joined the protest that would have overturned the presidential election had it succeeded, because it would have overturned the seating of the electors in Ohio, even though there was virtually no evidence whatsoever for their basis. He is now the chair of the January 6th committee. Can you say, oh, the irony? Here's more.
The Russian attempt to have the election, and frankly, the FBI is weighing in on the election, I think makes his election illegitimate.
There was a widespread understanding that this election was not on the level. We still don't know what really happened, Isaac. I mean, there's just a lot that I think will be revealed, history will discover, but you don't win by 3 million votes and have all this other shenanigan stuff going on and not come away with an idea like, whoa, something's not right here.
The outcome of the election was affected by their interference, and now we need to know, to what degree, if any, the Trump campaign was actually in collusion with with Russia.
He knows he's an illegitimate president. So of course he's obsessed with me. And
2.5-year investigation for collusion. Don't forget that. 2.5 years. By the way, we were talking earlier about how Biden's numbers are worse than Trump. And consider the battering that Trump took every single day of his presidency, even before. 25% of the congressional Democrats did not show up for his inauguration, one of whom was in this montage, John Lewis, because they thought he was illegitimately elected. They thought that he was put there by the Russians. Didn't show up for his inaugural. Imagine if people didn't show up for Barack Obama's inaugural because Obama promised to get us out of Iraq. Obama promised to do Obamacare, going to change America as we know it. 25% of the congressional Democrat delegation did not show up for Donald Trump's inauguration. This is before the phone call with Ukraine, before January 6th, before virtually any of the allegations they made against him. They still hated his guts.
And I believe that it's a guilty conscience.
We actually won the last presidential election, folks. They stole the last presidential election.
If Al Gore won that election, I think he won it anyway.
Actually, I think I carried Florida.
Bush versus Gore.
That's 2000. They still are saying that the election was stolen by the Supreme Court. Talk about undermining our institutions. So you're saying the Supreme Court was on the take?
Court took away a presidency.
If all the votes were counted in Florida, that Al Gore would be president today and George Bush would be back in office.
I come from Florida, where you and others participated in what I call the United States coup d'etat.
There's no doubt in my mind that Al Gore was elected president.
I rise to object to the fraudulent 25 Florida electoral votes.
I must object because of the overwhelming evidence of official misconduct, deliberate fraud, and an attempt to suppress voter turnout.
It is signed by myself on behalf of my diverse constituents and the millions of Americans who have been disenfranchised by Florida's inaccurate vote count. The Supreme Court, not the people of the United States, decided this election.
Speaking to a Democratic group in Chicago Tuesday, he made it clear he thinks Al Gore was the winner.
By the time it was over, our candidate had won the popular vote, and the only way they could win the election was to stop the voting in Florida.
Now, remember the woman who breathtakingly testified about Donald Trump trying to, according to her Secret Service, grab the wheel of the beast and turn it towards the Capitol building, and they resisted, and she testified to all of that? Well, according to the Federalist paper, series of private communications from December 2020 through May 2021, she had a whole different attitude about the January 6th committee. Called it corrupt. Repeatedly spoke in favor of Trump. One said the messages paint a picture of an aide who is unrecognizable to the one who testified about being fearful about what could happen in the days leading up to January 6th and horrified by what she watched from the White House on January 6th. She said just the opposite. Talk about somebody whose credibility is tainted. And remember the Secret Service agent from whom she allegedly heard the story? He promised to testify under oath. He never said anything at all about that. Hope you enjoyed that video. The full show is available to watch right now on Epoch TV. Just click the link in the description below to learn more, because we've got a country to save.